Chapter 10. Thursday evening. Doreen quickly redressed in the same clothes she'd worn earlier, pulled her hair into a ponytail, making sure it was out of the way. She had no weapons, nothing that would do the job against a possible intruder. And since Muggs had entered the bedroom, he hadn't stopped barking. She knew she would have to make her way downstairs in order to let Mac in and to disengage the security system, but she didn't want to do it too soon. She had no idea if anybody was in the closet, but no way would she open it without Mac here to take a look with her. She waited 10 minutes. When she heard a vehicle, she crept to the hallway. Muggs still barked away at the closet. She ran down the stairs, entered her security code, and unlocked the front door. Upstairs. I need you upstairs. And she bolted up the staircase, Mac behind her. He grabbed her by the shoulders. What's the matter? He whispered. She tried to explain, but it was garbled, as she was afraid the scenario had changed while she'd been gone. Thankfully, Muggs still stood at the closet doors, barking like a crazy dog. Goliath sat right beside him. Not to be outdone, Thaddeus perched on a newel post of the bed, overseeing the pair on the floor. Mac strode toward the closet door, raised an eyebrow at her over the nylons. She shrugged. I didn't know what else to do. He untied the nylons and opened both doors. He saw nothing at first. But Muggs dove under the clothes and growled. Yelps sounded from inside and somebody yelled, "Get him off me! Get him off me!" Mac dove into the closet, bringing out her intruder and tossing him to the floor, where Mac pinned him down. Well, 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 she said, recognizing the intruder she had caught in her house just last week, taking her fireplace poker after him until Mac arrived and took him to jail, only to run into the same damn intruder on the loose again in the grocery store parking lot soon afterward. Sometimes the judicial system sucked. So you are a peeping Tom, just like I told you before, stealing into women's bedrooms at night too. The man turned away, his astonished expression taking over his face. No way, he argued. You're not putting that on me. I'm only here because, he waved at Mac, he was coming inside, so I ran up here to hide. I'm not a peeping Tom. No way. His name is Darth McCloud. And he's supposed to be locked up. I'll have fun finding out why you are loose once more. Mac pulled him to his feet. You won't be getting out on bail this time. No matter how good a lawyer you have. He proceeded to march her intruder down the stairs. Darth McCloud. Well, that was a name to commit to memory. Hopefully she'd seen the last of him now. She followed them down and blocked the front door. Check his pockets first, she said. For all I know, while you and I weren't here, he made 5 trips out of the house with my stuff. Darth sneered. You don't even know what you've got here, he snapped. There's a bloody fortune for the taking. No, there isn't. It's mine. You're not taking anything. And I might not know everything yet, she said, but I'm learning. Mac searched his pockets and pulled out a list. He held it up to her and said, Does this make any sense to you? She frowned. Snow globe, blue china vase, silver tea set. There were a few other items. She pulled out her phone and took a picture of the list, then returned it to Mac. Thanks very much for letting me know what might be worth something, she told Darth. He just glared at her. Nothing else was in the other pocket, so Mac led him outside. She shut the door, keeping the animals inside. Should you drive him to the station on your own? She asked. Mac shook his head. I sent a text for backup. And sure enough, an RCMP vehicle came around the cul-de-sac and up to her driveway. 2 men got out. Hi, Chester, she said, recognizing one of the men. Chester gave her a sheepish grin. I see you can't stay out of trouble, can you? Not my fault you guys let this jerk out of jail. You should add peeping Tom and stealing underwear to his list of crimes. I didn't steal any underwear from you, the intruder bellowed. That's gross. You were in my closet and looking in my underwear drawer, she said, pointing to the open dresser drawer. So as far as I'm concerned, you're after women's lingerie too. She gave him a fat smile. Let's see what the other prisoners think of that. The two uniformed men roughly grabbed her intruder and forced him into the back of their car. With a wave to her and Mac, they took off with the prisoner. She smirked at Darth as she waved goodbye, then she turned to Mac. Now please don't let him out again. No, Mac said. I'll talk to the prosecutor about him staying in jail until his court date. Good idea, she said. We also need to figure out where his vehicle is and make sure he hasn't been hauling stuff out of my house. Mac pulled out his phone. I'll get a run on his vehicle in the meantime. He looked around the cul-de-sac. Do you recognize all these vehicles? She looked around. All but that truck down there. Together they walked in the dark to the truck. It was an older model. Mac took a picture of the license plate. Then he bent down, brushed off some of the mud on the plate, took more pictures and called it in. Looks like it's his, he said after ending his call. Can we search his vehicle? He was caught in the act of a felony, Mac said, so yes, I can. With his phone flashlight turned on, he found several bags in the back of the truck bed as well as a box. He opened the box and pulled out a large snow globe. Wow. That's beautiful. The bottom of the snow globe had Nan's name written on it. That dirty, rotten little thief, she said, stamping her foot. Can I take this back up to the house? No, I'm afraid not yet, he said. We'll have to keep all this as evidence. How will I know what's mine? She asked. They went through the rest of the box and found a blue china vase with a lot of bubble wrap around it. That was on the front room mantel, Doreen said in a daze. I have the pictures at home to prove it. He nodded. I can see that too. We'll have to move these to my car. But I want the entire vehicle gone over. Apparently Darth has a good eye for what he can pawn. The trouble is, I don't know what else he might have taken, and we'll need to give this truck a good once-over. She hopped into the bed of the truck with her cell phone out. There was one more box. She opened it up and frowned. I don't recognize this, she said. It was a carving of a dolphin's head. No, he said, but I do. It's from another reported break-in. Well, now you know who your burglar is, she said with a snort of disgust. Geez, as if we don't work hard enough to get where we are, and then to have somebody like him stealing all this stuff. Sure, he said. But remember where you came from, and remember how you got your stuff. At his dry tone she stopped, considered his words and winced. I'm sorry. That was incredibly arrogant of me. I came from money, lost it all, and am eternally grateful to now have all Nan's stuff. Yes, it was arrogant, he said cheerfully. But one thing I like about you is how you always admit to your mistakes. She hopped out of the vehicle and opened the front passenger door. Looks like a notebook's in here. He opened the driver's side and reached across to get it. He laughed. You see, the smartest thieves often have the dumbest systems. Are you telling me that he wrote down everything he stole? She asked in amazement. Looks like it, Max said. So we'll definitely impound this truck and everything in it. We'll move the valuables in the back of the truck into my vehicle, and I'll get Darth's towed to the police lot. Good. I hope he never gets it back. The bulk of the inside of the truck, outside of fast food packages and a travel mug, appeared to be stolen goods. She searched behind the seat. It was empty but for more garbage as best as she could see. She opened the glove box and whistled. Immediately Mac was at her side. He moved her out of the way and took a look. Now that's an interesting item to find in his glove box. He removed a handkerchief from his pocket and using it, he pulled out the small handgun and said, I wonder if he has a license for this thing. Even if he does, he still must have a special one to keep it in the vehicle, And isn't that only good for a couple days? Mac shot her a look. Interesting, you would know that. My husband had guns, she said. When we moved from one house to the next, he had to get a permit to move them. I'm surprised he cared enough to get a permit to move them, Mac said. He got the permit for the weapons the cops knew about. And then just did what he wanted with the ones the cops didn't know about. Mac stared at her. She shrugged. Come on. You know how many people have guns around here? A lot more than I would like, he admitted. He went through the rest of the glove box while she watched but couldn't find anything else of significance. He made a few phone calls, then, with the gun in his pocket, moved everything from the truck bed to his car. Are you leaving now? She asked. Not until the truck is picked up, he said. We have to consider Darth McLeod might be working with someone. That's a good point. She looked back at her house, the door wide open. The animals were milling around them at the intruder's truck, getting in their way. Maybe I should go back inside. I hate to think somebody else has gone in there, or is still in there, she said with a wince. Come on, he said. Let's get you back inside. I'll make sure everything's good. Then you set the alarms again. Yes, she said. It was a little distressing to realize the intruder was inside the house. Not much good having an alarm system. If you don't set it, he snapped. They walked into the living room to Muggs barking in excitement. Mac shut the front door and checked every room in the house, including closets and underneath the bed in the spare bedroom. Muggs followed his every step, sniffing into every corner too. Doreen laughed. We'll make a watchdog out of you yet. Finally, he walked back downstairs. Looks like you're good to go. Just then, they saw the lights of a tow truck. Perfect timing, Mac said. If I can get that thing moved, then maybe I can go home to bed. Yeah, and you'll probably sleep, Doreen said without hesitation. I'm not sure I will. He looked at her in understanding. It's been a trying time for you, hasn't it? Particularly since I found out something valuable was in the house, she said sadly. It's like a loss of innocence that I hadn't really expected to feel personally. Finding you had expensive possessions. Or the intruder. Both, she said. Realizing my husband had taken everything I owned before, I was feeling extremely possessive about everything here. One intruder was one thing, but to know he came back after more and was pilfering stuff from my house made me really angry. But now I'm just sad. It's an ugly world we live in. It might be an ugly world, but you don't have to let that ugliness touch you. Remember that. This is all about you. Your perspective. How you want to live your life. What am I supposed to do about people like Darth? You learn a lesson, he said. Some people are thieves, and all you can do is guard against them. But you can't judge the rest of the world by the actions of a few. She smiled, knowing he was talking about more than just intruders. More likely, he was talking about her husband. I don't judge all men the same as my husband. I'm working on forgiving him. But he didn't have to be so mean as to take everything from me. Right. I need to check in with my brother about that. And with a honk from the tow truck driver, Mac raised a hand and said, Now remember to lock that door again and to set the alarms. And then he was gone.